My next guest is a veteran theatre performer who 15 years ago made his debut as a theatre director. He's been in over 130 theatre productions across Australia and the United Kingdom. Welcome to Showtime, Keith Hutton.
Thank you very much, Andrew.
Keith, 130 productions. You started off as a performer and then you started directing shows. What inspired that change? What was your passion for directing shows?
Well, I didn't realise I had a passion. It got to the point as I got older. One of the things problem I had was taking me longer to learn lines, for one thing. But I'd always fancied just having a go to see, try it out. And a theatre group about 15 years ago offered me the option to have a go at that, and so I did. And I have to say, my passion remains performing. But I do enjoy directing. I love working with the actors, in particular. All the other stuff I do because we have to. The responsibilities of a director, but my passion is the actual acting and working with them. But yeah, 160 odd shows. I started when I was 12. And it shows my age now.
So 160, so that's 30 more than I had here in my notes. That's an incredible body of work. You must have some amazing stories.
Well, I've a lot of very, very happy memories, certainly. And people often ask, what was your favourite show? And I have two or three or more that I could list. But it's just always been a passion, and I've been doing 3, 4, sometimes a year since I was that age, since I was about 13. So that's why the large number. And as long as I can stand upright and continue breathing, I'll keep doing it.
And Keith, you've worked with some of our iconic suburban theatre companies here in Melbourne: 1812, Beaumaris Theatre, Morty Alec Theatre Company, and of course the kitchen sink now with Brighton Theatre, that we'll chat about a little bit later. What do you think it is that makes local community theatre so special here in Melbourne?
Well, first of all, I'd never experienced anything like this. When I came from the UK 34 years ago, I just thought, this is a smorgasbord. The amount of community theatre. I came from a small city in northwest of England. There was only one theatre group, and so this was wonderful. But it certainly becomes a hub for many of the communities, that come along. The number of regular patrons who just book for the whole year, tickets for every show regardless, and it is like a family. It's a bit of a cliche, but it is. We know the regulars at these theatres and who come regularly. We chat to them a lot, and they have their favourites as well, of course, and they're very loyal. COVID caused we took a hit, as we all did, and theatres were no exception to that. So we're still slowly building up that base of patrons. But it's a family atmosphere, I think, and they get very good value for money. To be honest, most theatres provide refreshments included in the ticket price, and a very warm welcome. And I think that's for me what warms my heart, that community spirit and family feeling.
And it is, but having gone to a lot of incredible suburban theatre companies in Melbourne, there is that real sense of community. It's people catching up with one another, but it's also really engaging. They're usually quite intimate spaces compared to a big city theatre, so you're feeling much closer because you are much closer to what's going on stage. And of course, the performers come out, the crew comes out, so there's an opportunity to mix and mingle with people after the show, really creating that sense of local community.
Absolutely. We are encouraged to do so, and a lot of patrons do hang around to do that, especially the ones that we know. They like to have a chat. But just going back to the previous question, Andrew, about the community spirit, all the theatre groups, and there must be 20 odd in the eastern suburbs alone. There's no competition. It's a real. They help each other out. If you need a particular piece of scenery or props or costume, there's no hesitation in providing that.
Even performers, Keith, I know stories of, especially around COVID times, where performers would get sick. So, theatre company producers would call from one suburban company would call another. We'll find a performer, or find a stage manager, or find a lighting operator to help them out, just to keep the show going.
That's right. It's theatre in its purest form. We do it for the love of it. So we're not getting paid. The people ask, for example, how do you learn lines? That's the regular one. And there's two things for me. It's fear is one, and that's it. That's the main motivator. We don't get paid.
Nothing like fear as a motivator.
Oh, it's a wonderful motivator, especially as the time draws on. We're 2 weeks out now, and I can see a bit of anxiety creeping in the cast, which is normal. We all do it. It doesn't matter how many times you've performed, you still feel that pressure. Because despite the fact that we are not professionals, we do it for the love of it, but we still want to give our best. And we care. That's why we create our own pressure.
And Keith, I've had this conversation with so-called non-professional performers and creatives before. It's not that you get paid, but it's still, people are buying a ticket. People are coming for entertainment, for escapism, for a night out. So there is still a contract between the audience and the performer.
You're absolutely right, Andrew. Despite the fact we are non-professional, no money exchanges hands, we are still performing to a paying public. They're still putting their hard-earned dollars in the kitty of the theatre.
And whether it's a $30 ticket or a $300 ticket, there's an expectation, isn't there?
Absolutely true. I mean, the average price of tickets is about $30 throughout the community theatre scene. And that's $30 that you owe it to give the best you possibly can.
You talked a bit about the pressure and the fear of memorising lines before opening night. It got me thinking about the rehearsal process, and having been in 160 or so productions, you've been in a rehearsal room or two. What is your favourite part of the rehearsal process for a show?
Once you get that script out of your hand, initially, obviously, you're spending the first week or so blocking it, and for people who don't understand that term, it just means that you're planning every move. Every move has to be planned on the stage to allow the paying audience to see everything. And that's a necessary evil for actors. You've got the script in hand, still you haven't got the lines down, and you have to go through all this. But then as the weeks progress and you're starting to get confident, learn the stuff, that's when it becomes real fun. But that apart, every rehearsal is like a social event in a way. Actors just like to get together and have a good yarn, and sometimes it's hard to get the rehearsal started because they're so involved in catching up with each other. And sometimes you haven't seen an actor for a couple of years, and you're suddenly cast together again in the same show, and it's lovely. I've always said to young actors in particular, one of the byproducts of what we do is that I have never done a production where I haven't made a new friend. And that could be a cast member, it could be crew, it could be front of house, it could be whatever, but I never fail to meet somebody new, and then you have that bond from there on.
And there is something special about that bond in theatre, particularly local theatre, because you go through a lot together, and it's passion and commitment and dedication that drives the whole project, isn't it?
That's right. You've helped each other out. It is an absolute team effort, and by team I mean the whole team, the crew, the front of house, costume, makeup, all of that. Every member of that team is equally valued, and without one member of that team, you can't function. It's a great feeling when you pull off what you consider to be a successful production by just a bunch of ordinary people.
I'm chatting with Kath Hutton, the director of The Kitchen Sink at Brighton Theatre Company. Keith, I'd love to try something new with you, the 3-word challenge, if you're up for it. I'd love to ask you to give me 3 words, and only 3 words, to describe The Kitchen Sink.
A year-long story.
If I had to ask you to expand on that, to tell those of us that haven't seen this work before, what is The Kitchen Sink about?
Okay, The Kitchen Sink is fundamentally a very sweet English comedy. It's set in the northwest northeast, I beg your pardon, of England, in the East Riding of Yorkshire. The writer of the play, Tom Wells, who's still a relatively young guy, was born and bred in that area. It's near Hull. It's set in a town called Withensea, which actually exists near Hull in the East Riding of Yorkshire. And it's a year in the life of an ordinary working class family, a family of battlers. So, we have mother and father, so we have Kath and Martin. Kath's a school dinner lady and also a school crossing patrol lady. Her husband, Martin, has a milk business. So he travels around the neighbourhood in his milk vehicle, which is known as a milk float in the UK, electric vehicle, just trying to make ends meet. They have a son who's into art, and Dolly Parton features quite prominently throughout the proceedings. They have a daughter who's into jiu-jitsu, and is about looking forward to taking her black belt. And then there's her boyfriend, Pete, who's a plumber, which is convenient because it's called The Kitchen Sink. And throughout the play, the kitchen sink, I think it's almost symbolic or a metaphor for the struggles that they are going through. The sink is playing up. It doesn't sound a very exciting plot. It is very unremarkable, but the writing is so brilliant. It's very funny, and it sort of captures the heart of situations that we've all faced before in the family. Little problems that can sometimes get magnified because of the struggle that they're having. It is just very, very sweet. You will feel uplifted if we get it right. Yes, when you come to plot, there isn't a specific plot. There are a number of things all happening to this family throughout the production, and it's like a series of sitcoms. There's 14 scenes in the play, all of which are relatively short, but it depicts a different situation in their life and how they're dealing with it. That's probably the best I can give.
You talked about the plot sounding a little bit mundane. My two favourite sitcoms, Modern Family and Seinfeld,
yes,
have very similar structures to what you've explained. They're mundane. It's sort of, it's a number of eclectic scenes that don't come together until right at the end, and incredibly engaging and incredibly funny. And I think why audiences relate to these sorts of formats is because that's life, isn't it? At the end of the day, you're sitting down, you're decompressing after, well, in my case, putting the children to bed and perhaps having a glass of wine with my wife. And that's when you reflect on the day and you sort of string it all together. Yeah.
And you mentioned Seinfeld. I mean, that was a genius, that show, because it was all about nothing.
Yeah, the show about nothing, exactly.
It was. Yet they contrived that wonderful series. This is not all about nothing, but it's basically a series of family situations. In fact, the play is divided into seasons. We start off in spring, right through to winter, and it's set in the kitchen of possibly a housing commission building in the north, in near Hull, and they are battlers, but they're lovely people. But just with their own problems, which have been developed to be extremely funny. That's the key's in the writing.
Keith, it's an existing work set in a specific period of time in a real place, as you mentioned. What special touches and elements have you brought to the work?
Well, I mean, I was born and bred in the north of England myself, as you can probably tell from my accent. Just on the opposite coast, I was from Cumbria. But I have a feel for the vibe, use that term, of the northern situation. I just think I understand what he's writing about, and therefore I can hopefully convey that to the actors. Actually, one of the actors has done it before. Louise Gracie, who plays Kath, she's actually done this play before in the same role at Malfunctioning Theatre, as has John Murphy, who plays her son. So, that made things easier when it came to understanding the play. But yeah, it's just getting across the northern idiom, just the way that the northern humour, which is very dry, and it can be almost just to the uneducated in this. It can almost be abusive or sound abusive, because it's, to use that phrase, we're hanging on each other, and that's that play. You see that they're taking the mickey out of each other at times. So yeah, that's basically what I brought, just an understanding of the northern culture.
And how do you balance, as a director, how do you balance your creative vision and that creative freedom with staying true to the work, staying true to the script?
Well, I mean, yes, because the script doesn't give you any help, particularly in a set, for example, other than it describes what it is. It's kitchen, but how you lay out the set. You have the freedom to do that. When it comes to the script, obviously you must honour that script. You can't change the script, not without permission anyway. So you have a certain level of freedom. I mean, we can interpret things in different ways, and every director will do just that. I know Louise has said to me that this is different to the way she did it in Malfunctioning, and that's just natural. So. Yeah, it definitely have a freedom to express how you see this play playing out, but the script itself remains absolutely faithful to the writers.
Keith, what are you hoping people take away from the show as they're leaving the theatre after watching The Kitchen Sink?
Well, I think I've said it in my notes at the end in the program that we hope that you've just enjoyed a year in the life of, and have a renewed respect for your kitchen sink. Needless to say, the sink's been playing up, and without giving anything away, it gets worse as the play evolves, and leading to a climax, which I can't tell you about.
The Kitchen Sink opens on the 1st of November at Brighton Theatre. For more information and tickets, visit brightontheatre.com.au. Keith, thank you very much, chat today, and all the very best for the season.
Thank you, Andrew. My pleasure.